Hello and welcome to episode 239 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and I think I'll start us off with baseball playoffs.
Okay.
I'm kind of rooting for the Braves just because they haven't been there for a while. Even though they've been in the playoffs a lot, they just haven't. It's amazing how many times they've been in the playoffs and what their winning percentage is. So they're up 2-0, 2 walk-offs. And the Dodgers are like my Darth Vader with a $300 million payroll. There's no way I can root for the Dodgers. I love their uniforms, but there's no way I can root for the Dodgers.
You know what's crazy about that series? I saw a national poll. Do you know the Braves are one of the most hated teams in baseball?
Because of the chop.
I think a lot of it is the chop.
Yeah.
And then people that
They got
remember,
the chop.
Sid Bream, and there's some other stuff.
Yeah. But that's the NL, and in the American League, it's hard to root for the Astros, but it's also hard to root for the Red Sox. I mean, they were both in the cheating scandal, so.
Yeah. And I don't like the Red Sox. Like, I know that they've obviously put together a really good team, so they can argue that they did the right thing. But I don't like when a major market team argues they can't re-sign Mookie Betts, who's like a generational baseball star.
Yeah, I mean, I was rooting for the Rays and the Giants. Neither of them are in there, so I have to admit, I'm not watching the games right now. I'll go back and forth between, like, if I'm watching an NFL game, I'll go back and forth during the commercial. But, it's what really bothers me is when I go back, when I watch, like, 3 NFL plays or 4, because the other one was in a commercial, or I'll switch, and I'll come back and they'll throw like 2 pitches in the time I watch 4 plays. They have to do something about it. I mean, how many times can you adjust your batting gloves on one at bat?
And I know
How long do you have to stare down the catcher before you take the signal?
And I know they lost the game, but the Astros being the Astros, maybe that's why it brings slightly more attention to it. But did you see what happened in their game? Their pitcher got shelled. And then he came out the next inning and says he was hurt, which gave the Astros like a 15-minute break to warm up a new starter.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that the Astros push it. No
But
question at all.
because as people have pointed out, you could argue that's a nice thing to do, and it seems like you should have to throw a reliever while you warm your pitcher up, and you just deal with the consequences. Because at the same time, while you're helping out your team, the other pitcher's sitting over there cold for like an extra 30 minutes that he wouldn't have normally been. Their
The
starter.
other thing is, we've seen this now in college football. All these leg cramps, right?
Yeah.
When a team's running a real hurry up offense, somebody gets a leg cramp, and all of a sudden you've broken their momentum, you've broken their speed. You get to make your substitutions. It doesn't cost you a timeout.
Yeah, it's definitely in the American spirit, but not in the spirit of the game the way I think it was designed.
I agree. Yeah, it could be so much better than it is.
But we have a new champion in sports, right?
Yes, we do. The Chicago Sky, who was one of my clients. So I'm kind of excited about them winning. And the Phoenix Mercury were one of my clients too. So I was in good shape either way. But the Sky I always felt sorry for because they didn't draw well, and it was a tough thing. They tried to play downtown for a while, and then he moved out to the suburbs into the arena at the Horizon Center. I forget what it's called now, but looks like they had a really full crowd. It looked really like they were into it. I guess what I would say is, did you see what the winning share is per player?
I did.
$11,000.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to me like a real insult. I'm sorry. So what do you get if you lost $1.50? It just seems to me that that's just wrong. If you're going to win it should have been they should have a minimum payout of at least, $50,000 or something. Or $100,000. It's just, you got to have something. $11,000 is it sends a really bad message, and it's also insulting to those athletes.
It is. I guess the devil's advocate argument would simply be that, I've been around a lot of people that love sports. I've had very few WNBA conversations. And I don't know people, I don't see shirts, I don't see hats. And granted, I don't live in a city that has a team, but it's not like it's LeBron James. It's just not. Maybe it should be, and in a different world it would be, but it's it's a minor sport. It just is, and maybe that'll change.
It's got much more of a following than it did 3 years ago.
Sure, definitely. I mean, I'm not arguing. I mean,
you got to adjust, and you got to invest some money into it and make it go too.
Yeah.
It actually had better TV coverage this past year in 2 years than I've seen also. So it's coming along. I mean, Kate Parker's a good story. Diane Taurasi's a great story. I mean,
oh yeah.
There's some really talented players.
Oh, I mean, I'm not arguing the time. I'm just saying simply as far as like a spec, because I mean it's harder than ever to get eyeballs on anything.
It is. It is. It is.
And whereas the NBA is like it's TMZ is the NBA. Like I don't even hear about in a good way, probably obviously for the WNBA, you don't hear about their players on TMZ, but I mean you just don't get the crossover and see Blake Griffin showed up on Saturday Night Live randomly, like
yep.
And he hasn't been a good player in like 5 or 6 years. I mean, you just have like just this I don't know how you catch up to that or if that ever happens,
Well, you might not ever catch up to it. I mean, but it has its niche, and its niche has gotten bigger, and so we need to support it and make it happen. But we need equitable pay for all the players. You got to pay more.
Yeah.
And like women's soccer is better than men's soccer. They should get as much money, if not more.
Well, they should get more because I think women's soccer is actually more of a draw. But I mean, women's basketball simply isn't the draw. Because I see a lot of the articles where they try to compare. This is what Diane Taurasi made. This is what LeBron James made. And I'm like, LeBron James is a global phenomenon that's known in households around the world.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to compare anybody to LeBron James or Michael Jordan.
No.
Or Curry in this next round or any of these guys. I mean, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors involved, and gender's a factor, but it's not the factor as to why that is.
No. It's definitely not. But on a happier note, or semi-happier note, the Steelers won.
They did win, and once Russell Wilson went down, I expected them to win, so I was expecting a win. I wasn't expecting that close of a game with Geno Smith, but there is the Methuselah that is Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, he can only do so much, and I mean, he's not. When we see the Steelers play the Ravens, even when they play the Browns the next game, it could be very, very ugly.
It could be. I mean, here's my glass half full Steeler fan, right?
Okay.
They have, despite having Methuselah as quarterback, they have actually one of the youngest rosters in football. Mm-hmm. Trey Norwood looked really good last night, a 7th round pick. Najee Harris is playing.
I've been a fan of his since they drafted him.
Vermouth is playing. Green is playing. Moore is playing. Buddy Johnson's on the active roster. Like almost every draft pick is there. Deontay Johnson's under 25. Claypool's under 25. The criminally underused James Washington is under 25.
Freemuth is under 25.
Yeah. On the defensive side, I mean, Bush is young. Watt's young. Highsmith, who looked fantastic last night, is young. Fitzpatrick's young. Cam Sutton's young. I mean, they've got, as people have pointed out.
They definitely have a young team. Have a lot of young resources. But the key position is old.
It is. And then it also begs the other question, like, over the last 2 weeks, I can think of 2 really impressive Steeler plays. Like the Eric Ebron tight end reverse run was pretty awesome. I did not see it coming. Totally fooled me.
I didn't see that coming either. That was shocked me.
And then last week, they ran like this weird tight end motion thing, and they ended up with Zach Gentry on an opposite. They ran like screens to both sides and got Gentry the ball, who almost never gets the ball. He's a great blocker. And he ran for like 15 yards. And those are the kind of plays that we've been clamoring for decades at this point. And I don't know when we don't, because it seemed like we saw a lot of old Steelers last night. I feel like I saw the occasional play action, but I also saw a lot of Ben Roethlisberger in shotgun pointing at people, and then receivers either not getting open or him not being able to hit them. And, because somebody basically...
last night was T.J. Watt.
T.J. Watt was amazing last night.
Now, I wish they would just shut up about the highest paid player in the game and worth every penny. Just let it go. This is a great play. He made some great plays, 2 huge sacks on 2 consecutive possessions in overtime, and just won the game. I mean, he single-handedly won the game.
Yeah, he had the forced fumble, the 3 tackles for a loss. He batted down 2 balls.
Yeah. I mean, he is absolutely ridiculous.
And as he gets
he's the heart and soul of that team.
And as he gets double and triple team, it opens the door for Highsmith on the other side, who looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very happy with TJ Watt last night and that decision to sign him.
And the great Cam Hayward, who was fantastic again.
Yeah.
As always.
They played well.
Oh, and back to the Steeler half full. Isaiah Loudermilk made a couple nice plays.
He did.
A draft pick we were very skeptical about. So.
Well, I watched the Patriots and the Cowboys yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very good game. I was very impressed with that game. Mac Jones looked really, really good. Threw a really interesting touchdown pass that everybody's probably seen on the highlights. Right after he was picked on a deflection, he went right back at the same corner, and we all know who that corner is.
Well, we'll have my Steeler moment right here, my super homer moment. Diggs, while he's had 7 interceptions in 6 games, whatever ridiculous stat he's had, he's also given up the most yards as a cornerback this year. So, it's not to take anything away from his skills as a ball hawk, but he also gives up a lot of plays.
Well, that was, 85-yard touchdown or pretty close?
Pretty close. So all this defensive player of the year crap has got to stop already. I don't care if he's with 20 interceptions. If he's giving up tons of yards and touchdowns, I don't care what he does on the one play a game where he turns the ball over. That just means you're getting a ton of opportunities.
Okay.
I mean, Dion had didn't get a lot of picks because nobody threw at Dion. Nobody threw at Ty Law. If you're a good corner, people aren't throwing at you.
Well, that's true. That's true. And like I said, Mac Jones went right back at him, so he must have saw something. Mac Jones knows him because he played against him for 4 years in college.
He did. And, I mean, I guess the big story from yesterday, I guess we have 2. The Arizona Cardinals, still undefeated.
Still undefeated, and Baltimore Ravens look like the class of the AFC.
As they trounced. I mean, the Chargers went down, got their touchdown, missed an extra point, and did not score for the rest of the game. Not another score for the rest of the game.
And he was under duress and he was running for your life. He was running for his life.
The entire time.
And I love the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all over him.
No, he just had nowhere to go. And Lamar Jackson, I mean, I think as long as the Cardinals are playing this good and they're undefeated, you'd have to put Kyler Murray in the driver's seat for MVP. But Lamar Jackson's been absolutely phenomenal this year. A leap that as a Steeler fan, you're very sad to see. But as a fan of football, you're very happy to see.
And Le'Veon Bell scored a touchdown yesterday.
He did. And I always like Le'Veon. I don't mind his holdout. It still doesn't bother me.
It still bothers me because he left a great situation and nobody won because of it. He lost and the Steelers lost.
Yeah.
So that's what, I think about what could have been, and that's what upsets me about it. And he got bad advice, and it cost him millions and millions of dollars, and it cost the Steelers a potential Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I think it's
a bad situation for everybody.
Yeah. But they also had no one. They were just going to run him into the ground and not pay him. So,
They're still going to pay him $15 million. He hasn't gotten $15 million a year since he left.
No, he hasn't. I mean, he has not. Poor guy.
I mean, he wanted $20 million. He turned down 15 and didn't get 5.
It's true.
And I don't know what he's getting this year. Probably 2.
I'm sure it's a very
incentives.
Yeah, it's probably a very incentive-laden contract. I'm positive.
I'll watch Buffalo tonight because they're a very, very good team. I just don't think, I'm looking forward to seeing Buffalo and the Ravens at some point. That'll be a great game.
Like I said, because we watched the Steelers beat Buffalo, and it wasn't just I know because people are like, well, they missed the pass to Sanders and you had the block punt, but they still just held Buffalo down with it. And the Steelers defense is really good. I'm not taking anything away from them, but that sort of taints my view of Buffalo, I guess.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I like Buffalo. I don't like them as well as the Ravens in terms of talent. I mean, I hate the Ravens, but in terms of talent, they're the class of the league right now. And the Cardinals are right there with them. And, the J.J. Watt looks like a new player for the Cardinals. And so their defense looks very good, and their offense looks amazing.
And again, I know they've got,
I watched DeAndre Hopkins, they had a scheme yesterday. He ended up sitting by himself in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. I was like, you watch some of these play callers, and it's just phenomenal. You're like, how does I mean, I know they have Rondell Moore, Christian Kirk, AJ Green, and James Conner, of course. But you still wonder how does DeAndre Hopkins end up that wide open in the end zone?
Yeah, how can you be that wide open? I mean, it was like 3-car length before I saw him in the picture.
Yeah. And the Rams are a solid 5-1. I mean, there's just some really good football happening, and some really bad football.
Yeah.
And then I guess the Raiders could have done one of two things this past week, and they went out and trounced the Broncos. They did the one of the two. They did number one, which is, we didn't really like that coach. We're gonna go show the world that we're fine as a team. We're good. And
so it makes me think that the 3-0 start that the Broncos jumped off to was just who they played. They weren't a 3-0 team.
Nor were the Carolina Panthers.
Become a 3-3 team.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the Panthers don't look any good better either, do they?
They're close. They're not out of games. I mean, they could have won that game yesterday.
Yeah. But Sam Darnold looks shook still.
He's had moments where he's looked really good. He's had moments where he looked like the Jet Sam Darnold.
Yeah, somebody said it feels like they have like an electric dog collar in his helmet, and there's just people randomly shocking him, making him freak out from time to time. And it seems pretty apt, because he seems like he's just on, whereas, even when he's being chased for his life, like Herbert still seems like a cool, collected kind of dude, whereas Sam Darnold does not seem that way at all.
Well, we're a third of the way into the season. We talked about who's impressed us. Who has surprised us the other way?
I mean, I want to put the Chiefs on this list, but if I was any team in the NFL, I still wouldn't want to look across and see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
No, the interception he threw yesterday was pathetic.
It was. It's almost like he's regressed to being a rookie this year.
Yeah, and then he's trying to do everything himself, and it's just not going to work out.
Yeah,
I put definitely on my list of disappointments. Probably the Dolphins would head my list. A team that we thought was going to be very competitive and in the race are 1-5.
I thought the Dolphins had a real shot at winning their division, which I look real dumb for at 1-5. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not like they lost a lot of players.
No, and they had a very young team, and they were all coming back. They brought back Xavier Howard. They brought the corners in. It just seemed like they were destined to be, continuing to move up, and they just did not move up at all.
They're a disappointment. I had the Cleveland Browns to the list at 3-3.
Yeah.
They got a great defense, or we all thought they had a great defense. And they've got more offensive weapons than almost any other team.
Although they are all hurt and banged up at this point, so.
They are banged up, but they weren't banged up to start. They just have not been good at even from the start.
No, because even though that game was a blowout yesterday, it should have been a bigger blowout, because that Hail Mary to Donovan Peoples-Jones was just one of those ridiculous plays where it seemed like the Cardinals weren't paying attention.
Yeah, I can't believe he just stood there and the ball came down right to him. It wasn't even like he had a fight for the ball.
No, it was almost like he was wide open in the middle of 5 people somehow. I think my biggest surprise this year, even though we both thought they would be good, has got to be the 4-2 Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
Because they missed some field goals against Green Bay, otherwise they would have beat Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, Chase is really playing very, very well. He's a great candidate for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and the guy that apparently couldn't get open or catch in the preseason, he figured it out real quick in the regular season.
Yeah, real quick. He looks really, really good. The Bengals look good. The Packers, after all the Aaron Rodgers saga, they're 5-1.
Yeah. Oh, and 2 of my favorite moments yesterday, one for both those games. Did you see the Jamar Chase block on the Mixon catch?
Yes.
That was reminiscent of Hines Ward, but yeah. But I mean, Joe Mixon had the ball, and normally a wide receiver would probably just watch that play from behind, but he sprinted ahead of Joe Mixon and just flattened the guy. And then I like the arrogant Aaron Rodgers. I loved him screaming at the fans that were flipping him off. I own you. I own you. I effing own you. To Chicago.
I've always owned you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's who Aaron Rodgers is. And I mean, and the thing about Aaron Rodgers is it's not an act, it's who he is.
I mean,
and he's consistent. It's consistently who he is.
He says what's on his mind, as they say. You know, I mean, he was like, I don't like our GM.
Yeah, I probably don't like him as much as I used to like him just because of all the drama this year.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of it. But, you know, he delivers. I still can't believe, though, that he keeps pump faking within the 10-yard line when he's running. He's already past the line of scrimmage, and people pull up when he pump fakes.
I know, it keeps working.
Keeps working, and I guess when it keeps working, you got to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, and it feels like it's that, you know, it's almost like that's what she said, where it's so overworked that you feel like everybody knows it and they're bored of it, but it gets a defense every single time.
Yeah.
And he did his little championship belt thing yesterday. Like, he was, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And just like last year, they started out 0-1 and people were freaking out. And he's like, don't worry about it, we're fine. And they seem to be fine.
And they got crushed that first game. They looked horrible.
Yeah, to a New Orleans team that has not looked very good since then.
No. Jameis looked like, are you kidding me? Okay, it's Jameis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had that bizarre stat line where he threw for like 130 yards, but he threw for 5 touchdowns against Green Bay in the opening week.
That was wild.
Like, that's one of those. I remember Jerome Bettis had like 5 carries for 2 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns in a game. It was one of those incredible stats of just like, oh, that can happen.
Yeah. Do you want to start talking about NBA a little bit?
I'm very excited. I mean, Warriors-Lakers opening night is very, very exciting.
It is. I'm thinking the Lakers are probably going to start off really slow.
I think so. I think that's safe to say.
And I think there's going to be a real adjustment period here. But there's so much talent. It's all going to come down to finding the mix. You know, how much of this ingredient, how much of this ingredient, how much of this ingredient, and going from there. But I think they're going to be. I think that LeBron will that team to a championship.
Well, I think the nice thing is that I'm assuming, you know, obviously we're very pro-Russ on this podcast as we've been over the years. But I feel like LeBron, you know, when he wants to bring the ball up, LeBron will bring the ball up and Russ will just do what he's supposed to do. He'll cut to the basket, he'll run, you know, like I don't think there'll be any alpha dog, you know, kind of shenanigans is what I'm saying, you know?
Uh-huh.
Now, I know Russ still can't hit a jumper, but I think the Lakers have already figured that out before they made that trade. LeBron is a basketball savant. I think he knows how to use Russ. And if AD stays healthy, like, you know.
And I think all those guys will subject they'll put their egos in check, they'll put their stats in check, and they all want a ring, and that's what this is all about. This is the proverbial ring game. And I think they'll be very, very good. I think they'll be very effective at it, too.
Now, the other, you know, we have the returning champion who stayed kind of under the radar despite making some pretty nice. I know they lost, you know, PJ Tucker, who was really good against Kevin Durant. But they brought in Grayson Allen. They get back DiVincenzo. And I think they bring back a different Giannis. You know? I think, you know, for an incredibly confident, swaggy person, I think he's got a different kind of swag now.
Okay.
Like, I don't think Giannis is not going to... I don't think he's going to be, you know... I felt like Dirk was kind of happy with one championship. And not to take anything away from the way he played, but I feel like, you know... Maybe it was when he got in his career, but I think Giannis is going to be just as hungry. And I think that Milwaukee team is going to be really, really good. Especially because everybody's dissing their title again, which is obviously a nice incentive.
Okay.
And then obviously the other major story is the Brooklyn Nets, who, you know... Do you like the stance that the ownership took with Kyrie?
I do.
Yeah.
In fact, my stance would be you're not going to get paid for any games. I wouldn't even pay him for the road games.
Well, they said...
You're paying him to stay away.
They said stay away till you're vaccinated, essentially.
Yeah.
Because all you're going to do is disrupt our team.
I don't think you should pay him to stay away. I think you say, hey, it's your choice. Well, the check will be here when you're ready to play. But I know that you didn't want to fight the players' union and everything else on it. But I'm just not in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with being a hard ass. You get vaccinated or you don't play. It's a privilege to play in the NBA.
And I know this is pure speculation, but I've watched some interviews with Durant and Harden over the last couple of weeks. And I think as much as Kyrie is their boy, I think if they could get 10 cents on the dollar for Kyrie, I think they'd be fine if they traded him.
I think they would too. I mean, Harden will play point guard and they'll pick up somebody else to take some minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what they'll do. They've got enough talent on that team without it.
Yeah, they're a really deep team. That Cam Johnson looks like he was a great pick in the draft late in the year. He can be able to maybe contribute off the bench a little bit, especially during, the lulls before, pre and post All-Star break before you're letting some guys get run. But, when people have speculated, I mean, it already got shot down on both sides, but, because I don't think anybody wants Kyrie at this point, but a Kyrie Simmons trade.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
No. Why don't
Kyrie will get the shot or not?
I'd like to think eventually he will. I mean, if you've looked at the way he's, if you watched part of his Instagram live, like he did talk about how he's made a lot of mistakes, he's learned things, different things. You look at his history, like one year he's hanging out with Justin Bieber and that weird shirtless priest, and he was all about Jesus, and then he switched religions like a year later, which is perfectly fine. But it doesn't look like he's, stuck in his ways too much, Like he'll flip-flop and change. But if I was another GM, even if he got the vaccine, I don't think I'd want him because I don't feel like I can count on Kyrie ever.
No, he's about Kyrie first and team second.
And I don't know, I know the world is going to be full of turmoil. And I don't know what's going to have him, leave my team for 3 weeks in the middle of the season to go, reflect on something. And again, that's...
I don't think he's like, you can't count on him. If he's on a team, even with LeBron, he was a pain in the ass. And LeBron has a good way of being able to manage people, but he couldn't manage Kyrie.
And at least other people in the past, like you look at remember Ricky Williams when he left to go, find his soul and smoke a bunch of pot. Like at least he left. He didn't leave his teammates hanging. He was like, you know what? He's like, other things are more important to me. I'm going to stop playing football. And he did eventually come back, but when he came back, he was dedicated to football again. But this wishy-washy, I'm here, I'm gone, I'm that, like it.
Yeah, it's bad.
And again, he has any right to do whatever he wants, and he's got all the money to actually back up his right to do whatever he wants, which is almost more important than, the thought of doing what you want. But, your team needs you. I don't know what else to say.
So you are Brooklyn in the East or Milwaukee in the East?
My heart says Milwaukee, but my head says Brooklyn.
Okay, but those are your two.
Those are my two.
And who are your two in the West? The Lakers and Phoenix or Golden State?
I like Golden State. I mean, I really like Dame, and I just don't think Portland's ever going to be good enough with what they have. I just think Golden State is really deep. And if Clay can come back and be any bit of Clay, and if Jordan Poole can be the guy we saw at the end of last year and the guy we've seen through preseason, they're right back.
I'm probably going to go Golden State, Phoenix, and only because the Ayton thing looks like it's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Since he didn't get the contract he wanted, are they going to have to move him? What are they going to do? And he was very valuable for them in the playoffs.
I mean, if you're that, Chris Paul is going to be coming off your books, unless I feel like I've seen growth from Ayton in 2 years, and I saw guys look, nobody's going to look good against Giannis. That's just a fact, Giannis is just a physical freak, and who's also 26.
Based upon the games leading up to that series,
yeah,
you expected more out of Ayton than you got. That's where it is.
Exactly. But, I think both from a PR league standpoint, because you're already Robert Sarver and the Suns. You're not the most desired destination or the most respected organization amongst players by far. So sometimes even, giving Ayton, if you were going to offer him 4 years, 80, maybe the 4 years for the 105, it's worth just just to show, potential free agents and other people, because the Chris Paul thing was a whole different situation. getting him in there, you know?
Right.
And again, I would probably sit down with Booker, too, and find out what Booker's thoughts were. Just to, you know. Because if he likes Ayton and wants Ayton there, I'm going to keep Ayton there.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. It's interesting.
And then I'm also excited to watch.
I like Dallas, but they just don't have anything.
No.
And they needed to add somebody, and they didn't add anybody, and so you can only do what you can do.
And I'm very excited for all the Luka backlash we're going to get this year in the media and on the talking head shows. Because we got that with Giannis, we got it with LeBron. It pretty much happens to any great player at some point, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm excited to watch the Hornets and the Cavaliers this year. I think both those teams have some exciting players, you know? Not contenders, but I like what they're putting together over there. I like the Garland-Sexton backcourt. I think it's going to be good. I'm very excited for that. And then obviously if we get a Beal or a Wall or somebody we don't expect to moves. Let's see how that, you know, adjust the lineup at home.
Okay. Any entertainment?
I watched Halloween Kills. I got Peacock Plus or the Peacock, whatever the app is, and I got to watch the latest Michael Myers movie. And it was more my.
This is the newest one.
It's the newest one, yeah.
Okay. And on the 1 to 5, what's your score?
3.5.
Okay, it's not bad.
In the horror movie, you know, it's October right now. It's, you know, horror movie season. And, you know, you're always going to want a little more Michael Myers.
Yeah.
I don't know where they go from here with it. I mean, at the same time, I don't know where they keep going with any of it, but it just keeps coming back. But this is, you know, it's a really well done film. It moves quickly. It's got a nice pace to it. And, you know, again, it's October, it's Halloween, so it's kind of exciting.
Okay.
And then we watched the very soap opera addict. We watched You season 3. Have you ever heard of You?
No.
It's a Netflix show about a romantic serial killer, if you will.
Okay.
He finds a woman, stalks her, falls in love with her, and pretty much eventually will kill her. We're on season 3 at this point, so, you know.
Okay, but he hasn't killed her yet in 3 seasons.
Oh, no, he kills somebody all the time.
Oh, okay. But not her.
He's killed every you because he realizes the you isn't the right you, and he finds a new you to follow.
Oh, okay.
Because he's always searching for, you know, I guess once he's able to trick the woman, she either finds out he is a serial killer and he has to kill her, or he finds out she's not what he thought he was and his eyes wander elsewhere. And it's like a really well done, like CW, WB kind of show. But it's enjoyable, you know? It's enjoyable.
Hey, that's all you can look for, just any piece of enjoyment. I've been watching Castle, which is now on Lifetime, because the worst thing about Lifetime is watching the commercials for the Lifetime movies.
Yes.
But at least Cheerleader Month is over, so I don't have to watch all those cheerleader promo movies. But Castle I find really enjoyable. It's a funny, it's called a romantic comedy mystery.
And it has Nathan Fillion on it, and I like him.
Yeah, and it's got, you know, it's kind of like Moonlighting was. And so I kind of enjoy the back and forth between the two main characters.
Okay.
And it's like mindless TV, and, you know, I can watch it. The stories, the one thing I will say is the stories are really, really well written. They're really, really good stories with good twists. And so I enjoyed that a lot. It was on for 8 years, so it had a following.
Nice.
Any food?
We've been doing a lot of more home cooking lately. I would say...
Yeah, we have too. We haven't been out.
Yeah. Just as a warning to people, we've been doing a lot of... we're doing like the 5 and 2, where we eat really clean and healthy during the week, and then, you know, on the weekends we sort of splurge. So we decided to make some cupcakes. And just remember that, you know, decorative frosting with all the different colors in it, not great for you. So,
Nope.
you know, it looks really fun as you're making a spider with a skull on it on top of your cupcake with all the different colors, but some of those colors, not good for you. Just, I'll leave it at that, I suppose.
Okay. I made a Gold Belly order just because it was a small size of something. It's from Kane's Bakery, Kanes. It comes tomorrow. And it was 3 donuts and 2 apple fritters. So only 5 pieces.
Oh, that is a small
and I
order.
thought, that'll be good. I won't waste anything. So I got a wild Maine blueberry donut, a cinnamon sugar donut, a jelly donut, and 2 apple fritters coming tomorrow.
Nice.
So I'll talk about that this week.
It is exciting.
And I did buy one of those giant tomahawk steaks.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to cook that on my Traeger. I'm going to smoke it first, and then I'm going to grill it off and see how it goes.
Oh, well, as long
It's
as we're...
almost 3 pounds, so it's going to be tricky to cook.
Well, I guess future food moment, because I so enjoyed the Indian Farms carne asada you got, or Snake River Farms, not Indian Farms, Snake River Farms. I bought a preseason tri-tip from Trader Joe's.
Oh,
So, it's in the marinade, it sits there, and then we're going to try to, it's not as thin, obviously, it's thicker as a tri-tip.
yeah.
So I'm going to have to figure out the best cooking method for that, but I'm going to see how that compares to the, delicious.
And you have to cook it slow,
Yeah,
so it's tender. You have a lid on your grill, right?
we do.
Yeah, I think you give a temperature. You have a temperature gauge on your grill.
We have the little digital thermometer. So,
Yeah, there you go. You probably want to cook it till it gets to like 160.
yeah. There's oven instructions too, and I thought about maybe doing the oven. So,
Yeah, I don't know what you did, but if you grill it, shoot for between 145 and 160, depending on how medium rare you want it.
okay. It just seemed exciting. I was like, this seems like a nice, to keep that going.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so delicious.
Oh, and Jason, I won the first game of the year this weekend.
What's that? You cut out for a second. Sorry.
Dak had a big week for us.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor had a big week for us. Those were big. Chuba Hubbard helped us out. Our tight end helped. Kelsey didn't have a bad game. He had a decent game. So we finally won a game, and it feels good that we won a game.
It's nice to get off the snide, as they say.
Yes, and we were there. People were starting to make fun of us.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, one win isn't great, but they can't say, winless anymore.
and we lost a couple close ones. We won this one by 50.
Yeah.
So it's it's just what it is.
And maybe the league prediction that we had the best team after the draft will somehow fulfill our destiny.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll be following baseball this week, following football. College football was great. We talked about that. Oklahoma State beat Texas, which I loved. But now they go to Ames, Iowa. In years when they play in Austin and Ames, they always win in Austin and never win in Ames.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens. I enjoyed watching Mississippi play Tennessee.
Despite the fans.
Despite what?
The fans, 18 of them getting arrested, throwing trash.
Despite that, I still enjoyed the game. I like this Corral as a quarterback from Mississippi. He's kind of like my guy right now.
Yeah.
They tried to make Kentucky and Mississippi State more than they were, and they weren't.
They were not.
So Georgia and Alabama just crushed those two and put everybody back to normal. And I said when Iowa beat Penn State, they never beat them if Penn State's quarterback doesn't get hurt. So then they take it on the chin from Purdue.
They got crushed by Purdue.
So I just saw that on the 30th, we've got Ohio State, Penn State is televised, and Michigan State is televised. So that'll be a good week for the Big Ten. We'll see who's real and who's not real.
Yeah.
But I guess that's it.
Cool. See you next week.